Good morning, class.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, teacher.
Today, we're going to focus on the phrasal verb add up in English. This is a versatile phrase that can have different meanings, depending on the context. Let's explore its uses together. First and foremost, add up can mean to calculate or find the total of a set of numbers or quantities. For example, can you add up these numbers for me? Or I need to add up the expenses to see if we stayed within our budget. Now, let's see an example of a daily life conversation that demonstrates the use of add up in the context of calculating.
Hey, can you help me with my monthly expenses? I'm trying to figure out how much I've spent so far.
Of course. I'd be happy to help. Do you have all the receipts and bills with you?
Yes, I have them right here. Let's add up the expenses for groceries, rent, utilities, and transportation.
Alright, let's start with the groceries. What's the total for this month?
It's $250.
Okay, now let's add up the rent. How much is it?
The rent is $900.
Great. And the utilities?
Utilities add up to $150.
Lastly, transportation. How much did you spend on that?
Transportation costs add up to $80.
Alright, let's add up these amounts. So, $250 plus $900 plus $150 plus $80 equals.
$1,380 in total.
Perfect. Your total expenses for this month add up to $1,380. It's always good to keep track of your spending.
Thank you so much for helping me calculate it. Now I have a better idea of where my money went.
In this conversation, Amber seeks assistance in calculating their monthly expenses. Brandon helps by guiding them through each category and adding up the amounts. Together, they determine the total expenses for the month, which is $1,380. Can anyone provide another example of using add up to calculate?
The bill came to $75. Can you add it up to include the tip?
Excellent. That's a perfect example. Now, let's move on to the second use of add up. Add up can also mean that something makes sense or is logical. It implies that the information or facts presented form a coherent or reasonable conclusion. For instance, her explanation didn't add up or the evidence doesn't add up to support his claim. Let's see an example of a daily life conversation that demonstrates the use of add up in the context of making sense.
Hey, I've been looking at the company's financial statements, and something doesn't add up.
What do you mean? Can you elaborate?
Well, the sales figures for the last quarter seem unusually high, but the revenue reported doesn't match up. It just doesn't add up.
That does sound suspicious. Have you discussed it with the finance department?
Yes, I brought it up with them, and they couldn't provide a satisfactory explanation. They said they would look into it, but it still doesn't add up to me.
I understand your concern. If the numbers don't add up, it's essential to dig deeper and find out what's going on. Let's schedule a meeting with the CFO to address this issue.
In this conversation, Roger expresses their suspicion that the financial statements of the company do not make sense or are not logically consistent. They highlight the discrepancy between the reported sales figures and the revenue. Despite discussing it with the finance department, Roger still finds the situation questionable. Arya acknowledges the concern and suggests taking further action to investigate and resolve the issue. Can anyone share another example of using add up to mean that something makes sense?
The suspect's alibi didn't add up. There were inconsistencies in his story.
Perfect. You've got it. Next, let's explore the third use. Add up can also imply that someone's actions or behavior suggest something suspicious or dishonest. It indicates that the person's actions seem questionable or don't match their words. For example, his behavior just doesn't add up or her story doesn't add up. Now, let's see an example of a daily life conversation that demonstrates the use of add up in the context of suspicious behavior.
Have you noticed anything strange about our new neighbor?
Actually, yes. I've been observing some odd behavior lately.
What kind of behavior?
Well, first, I've seen different people going in and out of their apartment at odd hours. It doesn't add up. It's like they have a constant stream of visitors.
That does sound suspicious. Anything else?
Yes, their car. They have a high-end luxury car, but their job doesn't seem to match that kind of lifestyle. It doesn't add up, and it makes me wonder where they're getting their money from.
You're right, something doesn't seem right. We should keep an eye on them and report anything suspicious to the authorities.
In this conversation, Amber expresses suspicion about the new neighbor based on their observations. They mention the constant stream of visitors and the inconsistency between the neighbor's job and their expensive car. The phrase "it doesn't add up" is used to imply that the situation seems suspicious or inconsistent, suggesting that something might be wrong. Christopher acknowledges the concerns and agrees to be vigilant. Can anyone provide another example of using add up to imply suspicious behavior?
The employee's expenses didn't add up. There were several unaccounted transactions.
Well done. You're catching on quickly. Now, let's proceed to the fourth use of add up. Add up can also mean to accumulate or increase gradually over time. It implies that something is growing or becoming more significant. For instance, the stress was starting to add up, or the costs of the project are adding up. Let's see an example of a daily life conversation that demonstrates the use of add up in the context of gradual accumulation.
I've been trying to save money, but it feels like my expenses keep adding up. I understand. It can be challenging to stay on track with savings when unexpected expenses arise. Exactly. First, my car needed repairs, then my laptop broke, and now I have to pay for a medical bill. It feels like every week something new adds up, and my savings are getting depleted. I know how frustrating that can be. It's important to reassess your budget regularly and look for areas where you can cut back to compensate for these added expenses. That way, you can still make progress towards your savings goals.
In this conversation, Justin expresses their frustration about their expenses continuously accumulating or increasing. They mention various unexpected costs that keep arising, causing their savings to decrease. Kevin empathizes with the situation and suggests reevaluating the budget and finding ways to cut back to overcome the impact of these added expenses. Can you think of another example of using add up to imply gradual accumulation?
The interest on my credit card debt keeps adding up, and it's becoming difficult to manage.
Excellent choice. You're doing great. Now, let's move on to the fifth use. Add up can also mean to combine or include additional elements or factors. It suggests incorporating something extra to enhance or complete a situation. For example, let's add up some more spices to enhance the flavor, or we need to add up more details to make the story interesting. Let's see an example of a daily life conversation that demonstrates the use of add up in the context of adding additional elements.
I've been working on a new recipe for our restaurant's menu.
That's great! What are you planning to add to make it stand out?
Well, I've added up some unique spices and herbs that will give it a distinctive flavor.
That sounds interesting. What else are you considering?
I think I'll add up some seasonal vegetables to enhance the freshness and add more nutritional value.
That's a good idea. Maybe you could also add up a sauce or dressing to complement the dish.
Absolutely. I was thinking of a tangy citrus sauce that will add up a zesty kick to the overall taste.
Wonderful! By adding up all these elements, I'm sure the dish will be a hit among our customers.
In this conversation, Anna discusses their plans for a new recipe and uses add up to talk about including additional elements or factors to enhance the dish. They mention adding unique spices, seasonal vegetables, and a tangy citrus sauce to make the dish stand out. Kevin offers suggestions and acknowledges the value of adding up these elements to create a delicious and appealing menu item. Any other examples you can think of for using add up to mean adding additional elements?
The presentation lacks impact. We should add up some visuals and multimedia to make it more engaging.
Perfect! You've grasped the concept perfectly. That concludes our lesson on the phrasal verb add up in English. I hope you now have a clearer understanding of its various uses and how to incorporate it into your conversations. Remember to practice using add up in your everyday language. Keep up the great work, and see you in our next class.